Hello there. Welcome to Sumit Academy. You are here because you desire to learn or maybe are curious about certain topics and terms. Well, that's exactly what my channel is all about. So do subscribe now so that you do not miss out on any video which may interest you. In this video, we shall talk about the term governance and the difference between government and governance. Governance means the process of decision making and the process by which decisions are implemented or not implemented. The state is now considered as just one of the actors in the process of governance, along with civil society, NGOs, and the private sector. With a shift of emphasis from government to governance, it is now widely accepted that the quality of governance and institutions has its impact on socio-economic development. Therefore, the United Nations Development Programme lays great emphasis on processes and institutions through which citizens and groups articulate their interest, exercise their legal rights, meet their obligations, and mediate their differences. Make a note of all these points. Governance can be used in several contexts, such as corporate governance, international governance, national governance, and of course, local governance. So, what is the difference between government and governance? Well, the principal difference between them is that while government rules and controls, governance is about orchestrating and managing. To rule would mean to be the sole authority, which implies that the government may rely on force to obtain compliance from its subjects. This concept explains the state's monopoly over legitimate violence. On the other hand, governance would mean that not just the government, but everyone, including formal and informal organizations, has a part to play in moving society forward. Governance thus chooses management over control because this kind of system permits room for outside influences. It subjects decisions to inputs from the entire society. Exercise of authority is still of utmost importance in government and remains significant in governance, but it is no longer its single focus. Now, you will see what is happening nowadays. The state retreats and the government withdraws from the areas that traditionally remained in their domain. And that's how the term privatization is coming in. The government is now the enabler rather than the doer and is being reinvented through reducing welfare expenditure, retrenching public services, contracting out functions to private agencies, deregulating economy, and allowing the market more free play in the economy. To use a sailing term, the government does not so much row as steer the economy. Governance is a system of rules that works only if it is accepted by the majority or the most powerful of those it affects, whereas governments can function despite having to deal with widespread opposition to its policies. Governance is thus about certain acceptable tenets in public administration, namely accountability, transparency, and participation. It refers to how decisions are made on issues of public concern, and for these decisions to be wise, citizens' voices should be heard. The success of good governance is determined by its effectiveness in bringing about improvement in the quality of life of the poor and the powerless. Let us now have a look at the 6 dimensions of government and governance. At the end of this, the concept of these two will be very clear to you. The first of these is the geographical scope. Governments operate on the basis of their territorial borders at the national and subnational level. Now, governance transcends national boundaries and is all pervasive at subnational, national, regional, global, and transnational levels. Secondly, the functional scope. In government, several issues are centrally coordinated by unified public agency. In governance, different areas are regulated by multiple or separate specialized agencies, which includes independent supervisory bodies and private associations. Thirdly, distribution of resources. Centralized government systems retain control over resources in the form of taxation and their use for policy implementation. In governance, policy resources remain dispersed among public and private actors who collaborate with each other in order to address common problems. Fourth, interests. Government rests on the belief that the diverse interests of social, political, and economic actors can be reconciled within the nation state, and that individual preferences can be subsumed to public interests. Governance favors policy based of individualism and market. The public is increasingly viewed not so much as a coherent community but as individual customers, consumers with diverse demands, which are better catered for by differentiated private services than by unified public sector. Fifth, norms. Government is all about sovereignty, command and control, and redistribution. Governance is all about limitation of national sovereignty, self-government, and marketization of social relations. Sixth, decision-making process and implementation. In government, this is hierarchical within states, highest authority centralized within national public agencies. In governance, there is horizontal dispersion of decision-making authority among a broad number of public and private actors at different levels. These include state agencies and national and international organizations. It is a world of collective governance. While government arrangements generally involve rights for some to have a say, but responsibilities for all to accept collective decisions, in governance, collective decisions involve issues of mutual influence and control. Implicit in this assertion is that governance is about coordination and decision making in the context of plurality of interests and views. It involves bargaining and compromise, and winners and losers among actors with different interests and resources. Politics informs governance in that it provides the raw material to customize governance arrangements to resolve problems and challenges to living together. Now, how do you conclude this question? In conclusion, we may say that governance is the dynamic exercise of management, power, and policy, while government is the instrument that does it. I think that beautifully summarizes this lesson for you. Well, That's all in this video. Hope it will be useful for you in your endeavor. Do subscribe to my channel now so that you do not miss out on my past or future videos. And if you have any suggestions, then do feel free to write in to sumitacademy20@gmail.com. Till later then, cheers.